Jen here with Samson. He's resting. I don't know why he's resting, but it's rainy here, so walk is delayed, at least for now. I had something to talk about. The actual original reason for this channel is to showcase what is happening in the spirit, to just show people that God is still working. And if that offends you, well, then you might not like this video, because this video is going to be in part, I guess now added to my testimony. Y'all know that both channels, the original channel and this one, are my ongoing testimony, because I feel like I was asked to share that with people, and so I do. Parts of my testimony have really angered people. If you get that knee-jerk, instantaneous anger to something that I say, take a minute, take a deep breath, and ask yourself if that is your own spirit, the one that the Creator gave you, or if it's something darker, maybe lower level entity, energy that might be attached to you. It might not even be your real reaction. And that is actually the effect of what will happen in some cases regarding the topic of this video. So let me say that no part of this may be shared or distributed to anyone else. This is my testimony. It is not out there to be made. I mean, people will make fodder of whatever they want, but it's not here to be cut up into pieces and my words taken out of context. That's not why I do this. So let's turn on the comments in case anyone does tune in, and in case anyone decides to comment, we'll leave that open. This topic is a topic that angers people. It's controversial. So if you're looking for a little controversy, stick around, because it's sure to offend some people, and my sub count will probably go down. But I'd really like it for y'all to prove me wrong in this topic one time. I am not here to condemn anyone. I am the last person who would or should judge any other human being. However, we do that, right? We judge people with our eyes almost as soon as we meet them. It is almost a natural human instinct. Now, when I say judge in that sense, I mean we take them in, right? We see immediately, okay, this person likes country music. They've got a trucker hat on. They've got cowboy boots. They've got a big truck. When maybe they're just working, and, you know, that's not the right thing to consider at all. But it is something that we do. We do judge one another on first impressions and when we meet one another. But we are to be judging by the spirit. By the time something gets to the physical and it manifests to the physical, it's already occurred. The physical manifestation of a thing is just the effect of whatever has taken place in the spirit. Now, if I don't look at comments, please forgive me. I actually have my journal entries here with me. This will be a video that I will probably, hopefully, have time to do face-to-face with proper grammar and all of that. But right now, it just has to be raw and real, and maybe somebody will either be uplifted by it, or their eyes will be opened and they will start to begin to see the truth of where we are, because we have been lied to about so much. Today I'm going to introduce you to a different word as well. You're looking at St. Francis of Assisi, by the way. He is allegedly the one who loved the animals the most. Hopefully I'm not doxing myself too much there. Okay, here we go. Hi, welcome. So the first thing I want to go over real quick is this new word. You're going to say, Jen, this isn't new. We've all learned this in basic history studies regarding Egypt and sarcophagi and mummies and all that, right? Yeah, well, I thought I knew what it meant too, but let's read and find out the history of the etymology of this word. Hello there, how are you? I hope you're well. Sarcophagus, most of us know what that means. It says circa 1600, meaning this is when it came into advent. This is when it came into being. A type of stone used by the ancients for making coffins. Now let's follow this through. And again, we're going backwards, right? You have to go to the root of a thing. So that is done through transliteration. Going backwards is not the same as translation. And again, I cannot stress enough. I'm just a girl. I mean, I should say woman. I don't even feel like a woman anymore. I feel kind of like a girl. But that happens when you cut certain things out of your life. Anyways, most of us thought we knew what this meant, right? But we're going to do a little detective work and it won't take long. From the Greek, sarcophagus, lithos is limestone used for coffins. Hold, limestone and granite are huge conductors, and they're often found in, around, or altars are made of limestone in and around altars of animal or human sacrifice of the pagans. Let me also stress all the hatred towards Christianity at this point in time, saying that Christians went around the globe and couldn't leave people be, and we started these wars and people were killed. It wasn't about civilized society in the way we think today. It wasn't about taking a homeless person, giving him a bath, and throwing him in a suit and house and car and giving him a mortgage and saying, here, now you're a slave. Right? And funny, we were taught it's the other way around. But truly, I promise you it's not. The more belongings you have, the bigger your leash may be. But the stronger your collar as well. Anyways, I guess that came from a video I just watched. If you understand the lingo, please do consider giving the video itself a thumbs up. Again, you're not going to like this video. Most of you won't like this video. Please prove me wrong. Please don't unsub just because you disagree with one thing a person says. So let me preface this. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to condemn. That is not my lane. It's not my job. Although humanity, people, individuals, we do have a tendency to judge because of our eyes. Again, we have to understand that physical manifestations take place after something has already gone on in the spirit. The physical manifestation is the result. The spiritual root is the cause. And that can look backwards here. I've been trying to explain retrocausality for 4 years now. I'm glad other people have taken that away because I don't really have the energy anymore, guys. I'm tired. Sarcophagus. So limestone and granite were already found around sacrificial sites, okay? And that's why the conquistadors came in. That is why you see the Christians come in and kind of take over, is because they were killing people, women usually, and children first, of course. Because God forbid the man actually offer himself up to do something he deems necessary for his God. I don't hate men. I love men a little too much. I have loved men, but they are in serious error at this point. I don't want to hear any more whining about how the white male is the most degraded or demeaned. That's not even true. It's the woman at this point. Where are our true voices? Not the women influencers, not the women on YouTube, even the Christian ones. You know, if you're on YouTube that much, who's watching your children? Seriously. Like, when are we going to gain some common sense and some true stability in the way that we judge these things? We just want people that are popular. And then we want people that are popular to like us. And then we want to be like them. And then they get ruined. And so we find somebody else to admire. And on it goes. So I'm going to give you today a few people to hopefully really admire. So I have to go over this real quick. Limestone used for coffins, the adjective, if you use the adjective sarcophagi, okay, so sarcophagus is a noun. That's the actual tomb or the coffin, okay? So if you go to the adjective, it actually means flesh-eating, a reference to the supposed action of this type of limestone. Now they're saying that lime, because we know that when, well, we don't know, but on murder mysteries and true crime shows, it's always said that, you know, the criminal is caught because they wanted to use lime to degrade the evidence, which was the body. Allegedly. Now, this is in crime shows. Is it true? I don't know. I've never had to dispose of a body. Why don't you tell me if it's true? Because I don't know. But it does not mean what we think it means. Okay? So it actually means flesh eating. But again, this is a modern app. Hold that thought. I need you guys to hold that one thought while I get through some of this. Well, there's nobody here. Maybe I'll do it real quickly. Well, I can't because then it's out of order. Okay, I'm going to read you a little bit of my journal entry from yesterday. Not just like read. I'm going to use it as my notes to help me along because these personal topics are difficult and I don't want this to be super long. All right, here we go. Testing the spirit. Now, thank you, Samir. I hoped to not have an issue with pride anymore. So I'm not anti-submission, but I do have questions, as they say. And where does it end? To whom am I to be submissive as basically a poor white woman? My female elders? The matriarchs of the family? Their husbands? Every man I meet? Every man in church? Every woman in church? Everyone is pretty much above me in this hierarchy. Of course, the church and God are the ones I'm supposed to be submissive to. At least that's what the church says. Who am I supposed to be submissive to? My conscience. Well, I leave that up to my creator, to the big G God. That's a pretty long lineup of all the people that I am beneath. I cannot write about my own personal holiday right now, which I put in there. Sorry, I didn't even mean to read that, as it's too painful. So right now we're going to talk about testing the spirit of a priest. Now, you know, I've been going to this church for a little while. I'm not a member. I don't want to be a member of any church. I don't agree with any theology that is out there in organized religion 100%. I do believe the Catholic Church was the first church. I do believe it was meant to be started by James, Christ's brother, and Peter. And I believe that if certain things would not have happened and would have happened differently, that would have come to pass. Now, we have to understand, though, people say all the time, the Protestants will say, do you think that God cannot watch over a book? No, that's not the point. I think that he can. But I think that he will allow what is going to happen to teach us, to open our eyes. He will allow things to be hidden so that we find them on our own. Because the problem with this specific topic is that it's very controversial. Nobody talks about it. Nobody. You cannot find any organized religious clergy member talking about what I'm going to bring to you today. You can't even find it really online. You can't even find it on YouTube. Now, let me just say, first of all, that I love America. I'm not about judging my fellow man. I'm not about creating less jobs or creating chaos for people. I simply want the truth. And in my journey for the truth, this is what I have found through both testing the spirit, through education and reading, autodidaction, educating myself, gnosis, whatever you want to call it, and through my own personal experience with the Creator, okay? So who am I supposed to be submissive to, okay? So this is what happened when I tested this priest. And I didn't test him on purpose, right? I went in there for the first time for confession, and I talked to him, and I got to talk to him face to face. I'm not going to tell you my first impression of this person because it is shallow and physical based. I will get through how I judged his spirit righteously and then tell you what I judged about how he looked. Something new or a topic I didn't hear. Interesting. Oh, I think you've heard it. Again, people just don't stay because they don't want to hear about this topic. It's very personal to people. It will make you feel some type of way, especially depending upon what is in your body at this moment in time. If you've not ate yet, if you've not begun the day with breakfast, then this probably won't affect you as badly as if you had ate breakfast. So I'm going to continue where I was going here. So the first incident was questionable, okay? It was when I first met him, and I'm talking to him I didn't get into specifics, but I said there was some abuse in the relationship. It had affected myself, my husband, my children. I said we were both to blame. I took accountability. I confessed what I needed to confess. And right away, it was well, don't you want to stay married? Why would you not want to stay married? And I'm like, well, look, I was never married in the church. My children are grown. It's very possible we should just part ways. That's my first problem with all of the churches, is trying to make anyone stay in an abusive relationship. There's just obviously something going on in there with the spirit of one or both people where they should be separated at least for a time. I know this from experience, so please don't try to give me statistics and all that. I know that 70% of women who attempt to leave are murdered by their spouse. So that was the first incident where I was just meeting him and whatnot, and he kind of sent up a red flag, and the way he looked sent up a red flag too. And again, I don't want to tell you what he looked like until I'm done, okay? Because I kept going. I stuffed down what I was trying to feel, and I kept going to this church, okay? Here's another picture of St. Francis of Assisi for you. There's a reason I picked him. Okay. So, testing the spirit. Here's the second incident, was during confession, as was the third. A quick talk at my first confession is the only official conversation we had, along with a phone call or text regarding my background and church basics. I was revealed that I was abused, but I was careful to say that there was fault on both ends. So here's me trying to sort out, right, if I'm having an issue with pride and this man. Maybe it's just this man, right? Maybe it's just pride. Maybe this whole channel, me saying there's something going on with everybody else, maybe it's me. And trust me, I said that exact phrase to my mother once when I was a child. Maybe the problem isn't everybody else, maybe it's you. And so I have and will continue to humble myself, allow God to humble me, and to be mollified completely, because I don't want pride to be anywhere within my spirit or body. And I'm not saying I'm a saint. I am not a saint. I'm not anything like the people that I'm going to talk about. For whatever reason, I was just able to find this information, and my body confirmed all this. So I'm going to tell you what the topic is as soon as I get done with this second confession. So during my second confession, I told the priest I had some moments of envy, and I told you what happened. Everything I confessed to him, somebody came who looked like a cousin of my spouse and talked about it to me at my job. That's the thing, when you're in an area where there's none of your own people, it's pretty easy to gaslight you. I could say all this is supernatural, but that would be a lie, because it's not. Because I'm a pretty easy person to segregate and isolate and play games with. So I know that, and I take all of that into account as well. So I'm just trying to walk through my life, trying to be a better person, trying to get out of this funk that I was in, this darkness that I found myself in, this pit that I was in. So after I confess, I tell him, Father, I had a dream about Mother Mary, and I'm supposed to tell you about it. And yes, this is not me being arrogant or conceited. Mother Mary urged me to tell him this story. I know you don't believe me. You don't have to believe me. That's fine. But I've been plagued with nightmares my whole life almost. Obviously, since before my mom even introduced me to the occult, I have had nightmares my entire life. And some of them have come true. So I'm very funny about my dreams. So I said, Father, I was told to tell you this dream. I go over this dream a couple of months ago, however long ago it was that I had it. Basically, Mary was in my dream. She kept this beast out because I told you there are these things that come and they try to get information from me as I'm sleeping. We're going to look at truthers. Remember Truthor, the guy I shared, he hasn't made a video in 4 years. Yeah. We're going to share the one who shows you in reality and on TV how it will muck with you. We're going to go to his website in one of the next lives too and just dissect it, because there's a lot of strange things on his personal website. I had never looked at it before. I had only saw his YouTube channel. But he touches on some of the things that I've touched on. So I know, and it was before I talked about them. So I know, I did not discover it until after it happened to me, but he had posted it before my events. right around the same time I was going through stuff, he started going through stuff. A lot of us had this 2017, 2018 thing happening. So at this confession, I told him about this dream, and immediately he says, that wasn't Mary. Okay, so first of all, I don't know if he heard me like whip my neck whiplash or what, but he said that dream wasn't from God and that wasn't Mary. I believe verbatim. That's what he said. Now, let me just say. So during my second confession, I told him my dream of Mary very briefly, as confession is and should be a time of humility and mollification and repentance. This cannot be overstated. Unburdening your soul truly does help you on this walk. If you can't do that, then you're going to stay at the same place. You're going to keep banging your head on that same wall. You're going to stay on the same board. You're not going to level up. You're not going to be able to get past it because of that, okay? Now, I set out to test this priest, as I felt compelled to do. Now, how just would it be for me to test the spirit of these Protestant churches that I went to, but not my own original home church, Catholic church? I did test the one down the road, another one, and that priest wouldn't even take me into a confessional and started talking about third eyes as I'm telling him about abortion. So I don't believe I'm exaggerating these cases. I don't believe this is just me being over judgmental, but again, I will continue. I almost cannot stomach to write this because, and I can't stomach to say it. Now, after I confessed, he said, that's not a dream from God and that wasn't Mary. It was as if he slapped me. That's what I wrote. My body's reaction was so swift. He must have felt my whiplash from behind the screen because he shuddered, but quickly recovered. Oh, he stuttered, but quickly recovered. So the first thing I would ask here is, and it pains me to even ask this because I know the answer, but can Satan imitate his sworn nemesis, Mary? Can Satan imitate the most godly and holy of women to have ever walked the face of the earth? And there is no dispute about that because she was the mother of Christ. She is the mother of Christ. Okay? Yeah, right? So first of all, can Satan imitate Mary? Satan can't appear as a woman. I won't doubt that. The red dress and in the Matrix, that whole thing is about the devil, and nobody ever catches on. It's always about the devil, right? When you see that red, it's got something to do with blood. It's either to remind you of the blood of Christ or the other guy. And I have my own beliefs as far as how they teach the crucifixion. I think that was allowed by God, but I think it was carried out. Pharisees are what we today call Satanists. They are the worst of the worst. So that reminded me, can Satan imitate his sworn mother, Mary, the mother of God that we call full of grace? Could Satan imitate her and be full of grace and literally keep this nasty dude out of my dreams? Now, he said that it wasn't of Mary because of the rest of what I said. I said that I saw the little children there, that they were kind of blue but glowing, that they were saying their rosaries. And then as they were saying their rosaries, the first one said, some will be Protestant, some will be Catholic, some will not be. And I believe they're talking about who will be saved at this time. But he said that that was definitely not true because there won't be any Protestants to be saved. And I didn't argue with that part. It's not my job to say who's going to be saved. Like, I don't do that. I know what the church says, but it's not my job. I don't do that. So I'm rendered speechless at even placing such letters and words in the same phrase. This is my journal. I'm reminded of the Pharisees in the Holy Bible when they accused Christ of healing through the power of Beelzebub, one of Satan's main demons. In Matthew 13:22 through 37, he heals on a Sabbath, which is against their laws. So they accuse Christ of healing through the power of Beelzebub. So I ask again, priest, could Satan, and I actually wrote that in my journal like he's going to hear it. I ask again, priest, could Satan imitate Mary, so full of grace, even just to mock her? To me, this is mighty close to offending the Holy Spirit, the unforgivable sin. I'll move on to the next incident, then describe the high strangeness or diabolical surroundings of this individual. So I'll tell you about him himself. So these descriptions I'll save until last for analysis of my own bias, because as I'm writing, I'm still trying to determine, am I just being prideful? Do I just not want to listen to people at church? Because a friend of the channel actually accused me of that once. You just don't want to listen to anyone above you. And that's not true. I desperately want a teacher. Desperately. I pray all the time for somebody to come along to teach me things. But the things that they're wanting to teach me are things that God has already taught me, and I'm not going to let anyone undo that, because it took me a couple of years of unindoctrination of myself, of emptying myself out of garbage, to then decide what to put back in. And so the most recent was yesterday when I did confession before Christmas Mass. Now remember, I'm doing all this alone. I go to this new church alone. It's a church that requires head coverings and skirts. I don't always... My pantyhose ripped before I was going to go, and I still went. I did not wear pantyhose, which was... My grandma would have rolled over in her grave had she known, but I didn't wear any. Nobody said anything, thank goodness. And so I did my confession before service, okay? So I go in, nobody else, I mean, I'm a little late. I'm not super late, but there's usually a line to confession, and nobody's doing confession. I don't know. Whenever I take Eucharist, I always do confession, especially now, because again, if you followed my story, you know what happens when you do things you're really not supposed to be doing. So I went into confession. There was no line, nothing. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's closed. And I actually sat in the booth or pew, and I'm like, well, maybe he's not in there. But he was sitting in there, and it's the same one. Now, mind you, when I confessed to the other one, he's a pretty normal dude, and I've never met him face to face yet, and I've not even talked to him on the phone yet. But he tells me, he goes, that's a really noble confession, because I confessed just being envious and oh, I said, this is important. I said, God has asked me to do, me specifically, to not do two things. I said, I know that they're not anti-godly, so I know it's the Spirit of God, but they're also not doctrine. So I don't push them on anyone else. They're just things God asked me specifically in my walk not to do, and I still stumble with them. I still have trouble with them. And he said, well, that's very noble that you want to be obedient to the Lord. And he didn't even ask me what God had asked me to do or not do. He didn't even ask me. You know why he didn't ask me? Because I said right there, I prefaced it with saying, I'm not going to push it on anybody else. And I'm telling you that now. So please don't tell me that I pushed this on you. I'm just bringing you the facts of my story and some really interesting literature that backs up everything that I've been saying for a long time. And I'm very tired, guys. I'm sorry. This journey has made me very tired, and I don't know, I'm just tired. So that priest didn't ask me what these things were, okay? So today I mentioned it again, and I did this kind of on purpose, again, when God pushes something on me, and it's 3 times, right? If you get 3 confirmations about a dream that you had or something that occurred, or if it's usually 3, and 3 is a godly number, right? So it's usually something will repeat 3 times, so you know then it's a thing, right? So that's part of testing the spirit as well. And so I'm like, I'm going to go back to this church. I'm not going to stop going. I'm going to keep going. I can disagree with the priest. It's okay. This other one was decent. He didn't even ask what it was. So I didn't tell him these 2 things that God asked me specifically not to do. This one wanted to know what they were, though. And so I told him. So he says, what is it? And I said, well, God led me not to eat animals. First thing out of his mouth, that's not God. I don't even know what to say to that. First of all, a priest should know better. You can't say something is of God or not of God until you first determined if it's something that lines up with the Spirit. Now, here's the problem with this. He's correct in that he says God would not go against the word of God. Right, God's not going to go against his own word. But even Christ told us that the scribes were liars. There is a verse and this goes back to my journal, he gave me the old standby verse for eating animals. Matthew 15:11 through 20 summarizes it. It's not what goes into a man's mouth, but what comes out that defiles it. Christ is talking about the words of a man, okay? Because the Pharisees ridicule him and say, what are you doing eating with these men? They haven't even washed their hands yet. And hand washing was a law then. You had to wash your hands. Why do you think all the hand washing thing came back around with CV? Because we're dealing with Pharisees. They've been here, they were here, they're still here. They were at Golgotha, and some of their punishments was to walk the earth until Christ came back. That's the Roman centurion's punishment. He has to walk the earth for thousands of years until Christ comes back. People say, well, these things can't happen. Dragons weren't real. Well, what the heck are dinosaurs? They're pretty much dragons. We got to get the sand out of our eyes and quit thinking that we are the end-all be-all and that we know everything. Just because I've never seen or heard of an electric eel doesn't mean they're not real. Just because I've never touched a dolphin doesn't mean they're not real. Do you see how ignorant that, and by ignorant I mean lack of knowledge? I was just listening to that radio show again, and this earthling had went into this parallel universe accidentally, and this woman was questioning him, and she's like, that's impossible, you can't be from there. And he says, why is it impossible? Because I don't know about it, she said. Do you see how arrogant that is? That just because I don't know about something makes it not real, makes it fake. And I might be one of those people who says, yeah, pretty much anything on TV is fake. That's not me saying like everything that we can touch, see, and taste is fake. Okay? There's a difference. So they ask Christ about this. They say, why are you eating with these people? They haven't even washed their hands yet. And Christ says, it's not what goes into a man, but what comes out that defiles him. Can we be case specific here? Christ was talking to the Pharisees specifically about hand washing. It had nothing to do with what they ate. And I will argue with priests very respectfully. I know you can say thousands of years the church has been on. People are going to argue with me because they like their animal flesh, because they like their steaks, because they want to eat the meat, because they want to be the king of the hill, and they want to pound their chest like big men and say, I'm a big bad man, I wear lumberjack flannels, and I eat meat. Meat that most of them don't go out and get themselves. And I know that I lose people here for this topic. I get it. Nobody likes this topic. Nobody wants to hear about why we shouldn't be eating animals, but Christ has told us, so let me get into it. And again, we'll have a conversation. Feel free, please leave a comment. Let's talk about it. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm not telling you you're wrong for eating animals. I'm telling you from what I've seen, from what I've researched, and from what my body has done since dedicating myself to Christ, my body has changed of its own accord. I had no power over it. And there are certain things that are fine that I can eat. But any time I try to put any type of beef into my body, beef products, chicken, some chickens now, pork, of course, pork was the first meat to go. My own body did it of its own accord. That's what I'm telling you guys. Okay? And this is why I said each religion has a piece of it right. I think we started as one religion, one faith, whatever, doing whatever we did in our little minds, thanking the sky for the bounty that fell on the ground, whatever, however we did it. However we said thank you, however we worshipped, however we danced and sung, we did it all together. We got to get rid of this device. I love my individuality. Like, I'm cool with that, right? But we need to be able to come together and to separate when we're supposed to or need to. I don't know. So anyway, he advised that because of that verse, I was in error. And so I said, okay. I said, I understand it's not a salvation issue. It's just something God led me away from. Also because my family has heart problems. They have issues with cancer. And let me be very clear here. I'm not a doctor. This is not in any part medical advice. For such advice, please seek your chosen professional, okay? But I will state yet again, and I will leave the link again, the CDC lists meat as being carcinogenic, meaning that it causes cancer. The other thing that they advise causes high rates of cancer within people. And this is probably why they didn't want us listening to the CDC, because this information is right on their website. This is the big debate. This is the big schism in the church. This is the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about. They want to say it's about these priests who do these nasty things. I'm not disagreeing, but I'm saying this they have hidden. This they have hidden, and it goes along with cannibalism, unfortunately, as well. And I found older articles that I will still try to refind, citing that Jewish leaders and Catholic leaders colluded to hide the evidence, hide the bodies, so to speak, literally and figuratively. I'm also not a lawyer. No part of this is legal advice. I'm just a girl giving my story. So he yet again advised me that God wouldn't go against Scripture and that I was in error. I recited the verse along with him, explaining I don't condemn anyone else. Just on my own personal journey, God helped me to realize that I was being a hypocrite and that I was out of alignment, that if I so loved animals, how could I, partake of them, that my conscience was bothering me. I told him all this, and he still said it wasn't from God, that I was in error. Now, here's my problem with this. Number one, a priest should never that quickly tell you you're not speaking with God. He does not know who he's speaking to. I could have been an angel. I could have been a future saint. I could have been a saint. He doesn't know who I am. You should always, have some context with these things. Number one. Number two, I explained that I didn't condemn anyone. I obviously recited the Bible verse with him, so I knew my Bible. And I realized, I told him that it was my personal conscience that I could no longer be in alignment. Thank you, Michelle, for your feedback and for your encouragement and support. It means more than I can say. So this is the third time that this dude has really, just not won me over, okay? He didn't chastise me for going against Scripture, and he didn't chastise me for saying, he did not chastise me for going against Scripture, as he tried to say, because I recited that Scripture with him, proving that I knew the Scripture. I also said myself, it's not a salvation issue. I realize that. So he should have just heard my confession. And like the other priest said, well, this isn't against the tenets, but you're trying to do something that is definitely a good thing. Here's my last problem with this. And this goes back to me talking about there being imposters among us. Several videos ago, a couple of months ago, I pulled up the Youngstown Diocese, because that's the nearest one to me, and I showed you how many pictures of our individual priests were missing. I also explained how every 2 years they seem to rotate priests and pastors. It's not just Catholic churches. It's the pastors especially. They seem to rotate them every 2 years so that you can't actually have a relationship with any of them. Or maybe it's just me. Every time I talk to a person, they disappear after that. Don't know where they go. Don't know what happens to them. But they're just gone. Every time I talk to someone who happens to be normal, who talks to me, who's kind, there used to be a lady at the corner store, and I'll never forget her name. Her name was Dreama. It was Dream with an A at the end. And she gave me some advice when I was literally going in there at night looking pretty beat up. And she gave me the name of a shelter. And I never saw her after that. She was never there again. Anyways, sorry about that. I kind of drift sometimes. So he did not do it because of my lack of knowledge of Scripture, because I told him specifically, I just felt like I was going against my conscience and something God specifically asked me not to do. You can't keep telling people that they're not hearing from God, number one. Number two, you need to know your own church. Let us address the food issue first. For the sake of space, I'll merely list a few Catholic saints who were vegetarian. Who you're looking at here is St. Francis of Assisi, the first being Jesus' brother, James. in the Eusebius Ecclesiastical History, which I have right here with me. Sorry, Sammy. This topic gets me kind of like I'm tired of these men telling me I don't know something when I know it. And that's the thing. My original husband, he said, don't speak about things if you don't know about them. He says, because I don't. So when I say something to you, please trust me. And I was able to for a long time. He was my God. To now see that same man so backwards and upside down, I don't know what's happening here. Anyways, Jesus' brother James, from the Ecclesiastical History, explains that Mary's womb itself was consecrated. Now, what does consecrated mean? Why was Mary's womb, where she holds a baby in her belly, why was her womb consecrated? Whoops, my bad. Oh my goodness. There it is. Sorry. You're not going to show me? How about consecrate? To make or declare sacred. To make holy. Okay? Mary's womb was consecrated before she ever had a child in there because she was a vegetarian from a very young age. There is a case to be made for all three, Mary, Jesus, James, and Mary Magdalena, for being vegetarian. If you don't believe me, check into the Eusebius Ecclesiastical History. It delves into this, as does James Tibbitt's book, which I also have. And we're going to look at both of those, probably on the other channel, Striving to be a Saint. But I have to do these on this channel while I can, and when I think of them. It will be more organized on the other channel as far as that goes. This does get into high strangeness for anyone tuning in for that reason. You could probably fast forward, and I'll get there in a minute. St. Peter is claimed to be a vegetarian. So let's go over here. I got to show you what I pulled up. This is where I found out about the sepulcher, because I didn't know that. Okay, so this goes on and on. We're obviously not going to read it all. Followers of Jesus' non-violent diet, vegetarian Catholics in history and now. Greater things shall you do than I have done. What you have done to these, the least of my brethren, you have done unto me. Did Jesus by this mean the voiceless murdered animals? He very well could have, because there's no asterisk but beside do not kill. It just says do not kill. Okay, so now it gets into some references. Pope John Paul II had a meeting with the German animal group of Elaine, said protection of animals is Christian ethics, okay? To John Walsh of the World Society for the Protection of Animals, he said, I'm happy to encourage and to bless all those who work so that animals and plants may be considered and treated in a Franciscan way. Why do they say Franciscan? Because St. Francis was very likely a vegetarian as well. Love for all of creation, for its harmony, St. Francis of Assisi bears witness to the need to respect all that God has created and whom men and women are called to safeguard and protect. I repeat, with all the strength and the meekness of love. Let us respect creation. Let us not be instruments of destruction. Again, I'm not here judging you. I still, backslide. I still have products. I still drink milk. I still eat cheese. And I still sometimes eat fish. But I backslide every now and again. And it's hard just eating beans and Fritos and, But as I get away from one thing or another thing, sometimes other things will come back to haunt you a little bit because they know you're trying to do something different, right? Or you're trying, like maybe you're going to try to quit a bad habit, right? And maybe that bad habit is to quit drinking alcohol, but you quit drinking, or maybe it's to quit drinking coffee, right? And you quit drinking pop years ago. You've never drank a pop again, but you still drink coffee. And when you go to quit coffee, you start drinking pop again, right? So you see things kind of teeter-totter until you totally clear them out. And again, we have Hollywood and the church's collusion to blame for the fact that people think exorcisms and deliverance are always super dramatic. Most of the times it's about what you're putting into your body, and if you're holding on to past sins that you have not confessed. Guilt. You get backed up with guilt, basically. Guilt that your conscience ain't reminding you of because it stopped working. So you start getting backed up with all this sludge in your system, spiritually and physically speaking. If you understand the lingo, please do consider giving the video itself a thumbs up. If you don't like the topic, please, let's have an open discussion about it. But I'm giving you plenty of proof here that this goes way back. For 3 centuries after Jesus' death, early Christians followed his vegetarian diet. Again, this is not the end-all be-all source. I have other sources physically here with me as I tried to let you hear. But I will let you see them. I've talked to you guys about these books. I have them. I've gone through them with you at times. And so I know, that this happened to all be in one link, so I decided to go with this one. But the information is verifiable, okay? So, St. Peter, this is from my journal again. St. Peter is claimed to be a vegetarian in the Clementine homilies, which is not canon church approved. Not surprising. Now let's find out what happened when they did do the canons with the council, with the church council of Nicaea. I say Nicaea. Jesus was a vegetarian Essene from Galilee. Okay? People want to tell you that he was a Jew who observed the feast days. If you watch from day 1, Mary and Joseph take him to the temple because that's required. It's the law. Jewish people made the law, right? So we're talking about law of man and law of God, right? They're telling you it's the law of God. They want you to think it's the law of God. They want you to think Old Testament laws of God, the Creator, the big honcho. That wasn't Christ's daddy. That's not who Christ was talking about. And I know that this is going to get me in schism again with the church maybe, and I know that people will call me a heretic. Do what you do. Say what you say. It doesn't make it true. In the Last Supper, there's a reason you don't see no meat at all on the table. Da Vinci was a Catholic. There's a reason they're trying to get you to trash the Catholic Church right now. Because if you go back to the roots, if you just do the simple footwork yourself, you will see. The reason Christ went off in the temple wasn't because there was money changing hands. It was because it was because of why. They were buying animals to take them home and slaughter for the sins they committed. That's why Christ said, I respect mercy more than sacrifice. He specifically said it, just like true big G God, Creator, Father God said. Obedience is what I prefer over sacrifice. Christ was meant to be the last sacrifice to finally show all these people, hey man, this is your last chance. God sent this beautiful being down here with a big part of himself to try and school us and show us how to walk this out, how to show us that it is our world and not Satan's. All we have to do is kick the serpent out of the garden, and we have not done that yet. The second we do that, everything else becomes clear. When I fasted, when I got rid of everything for a few days, and I include carnal relations in that, when I got rid of everything, I did not consume anything in my body for 3 days. The scales fell off of my eyes, and these things began to be clear to me. If you're a person who gets mad at these types of videos and you want to viciously type out something, or the first thing you want to go do is send me an angry email, or you want to go make a video about me, or a nasty, a whole mock-up channel about me, maybe take a minute to breathe and digest whatever's in that belly first, because that's what's making the decisions for you and not your spirit. St. Peter is claimed to be a vegetarian in the Clementine homilies, which is not canon approved. That is not surprising. There's also a case to be made for animal consumption not occurring until after the flood. Okay? For 3 centuries after Jesus' death, early Christians followed his vegetarian diet. Jesus was a vegetarian Essene from Galilee. Paul took the Nazarene vow too. He wrote, that vow included not eating flesh. There is debate about Jesus and fish consumption, but his abstention from mammal and bird flesh is rarely disputed. Hold please, because when we go to the next link that is from this same site, they give an astounding, enlightened interpretation of that story about Jesus feeding the hungry with fish. They multiply it that way because they're showing you how much energy or how many, I don't know how you would say it in biblical times, they're trying to show you how many things, oh, I'm sorry, Michelle, I just forgot what I was saying. Oh, shoot. I hate when that happens. I'm sorry. I hope you got what I was trying to say there, or whoever ends up watching this. If not, I will watch it myself and go back to it. I can't remember what I was saying. So Jesus was a vegetarian as seen from Galilee. Paul took that vow too. The fish. Basically, they're trying to make a case for the fact that Christ fed all those people with that fish, and they're trying to show you about farming. And I've told you this before about how it teaches us about 7 years of tribulation. That's why Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, he was told to stock up for 7 years. That's why they say a tribulation is 7 years, because that's how many years he was told to store things for. In case there are times that are hard, you make a storehouse for 7 years. And alms or tithings were not money. It was a food house. It was a community food storage, like a silo that you would see today. Okay. And so they make a case for the fact that basically what they're doing there with the story about the fish is trying to show you how much energy consumption or how much energy can be saved in the whole, how self-sustaining farming can be if you don't use animal meat. And he explains it obviously better than me. Again, I'm very tired. I've been up a long time at this point. So why are you making this video, Jen? Because when I feel led to do something, I've learned to do it, because when I don't, bad things happen. Okay, so where were we? Let's get into this real quick. There's debate about Jesus and the fish. Jesus expelled the butchers from the temple. The money changers were the butchers, guys. Jesus called the Pharisees whited sepulchres. This is where we get into the word. If you missed the beginning, sepulcher does not mean what we've been taught, and we proved that at the beginning of the video. I looked this up to make sure what he's telling us here is true. That's called doing your due diligence, fact-checking the right way. The Greek word used in translating from the Aramaic is sarcophagi, or flesh eaters. So Jesus called the Pharisees flesh eaters. Basically, he's telling them, you're blinded. You've got these emotions of the animals inside. You remember the one Pharisee starts actually pulling out his hair because Jesus says something that offends him that badly? They have the anger. I mean, if you're eating flesh and you're eating blood, and we're definitely warned not to do those things, I can tell you it raises your blood pressure, right? A lot of people who know that they have high blood pressure avoid eating meat, at least avoid eating it a lot. They know this. These are facts. Everything I'm telling you is factual. I'm not a doctor, but you can fact check me, okay? I'm not giving you medical advice. This is what I've done in my spiritual journey. This is not any type of medical advice. This avoidance of flesh began to disappear when Emperor Constantine, a warring non-vegetarian pagan, convened the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD and presided over it. Many books then were cut from the Bible, including the Gospel of Mary and the Gospel of Thomas, both of whom were vegetarians. Mary, from the time she was a girl. Are you starting to see yet? I've talked about this a couple times now. Are you starting to see what they're really hiding? Are you starting to see the real difference? And those who worship flesh, or those who worship death, those whose God is death, those who are in the death cult, and those whose God is the God of life, light, and love. It's not religions that make us different, guys. It's what we put into our bodies and how we use our bodies that make us different. And that's just the truth, because we willingly choose what we're going to put into it, right? There's another reason I do this, and part of it is penance. When my oldest was younger, he did not want to eat meat. And like my father, I forced him to. I said, you're going to sit here until you eat your little Vienna sausages because the doctor told me he needed to eat it. Because I'm stupid. Because I listened to somebody else over letting my child, well, you don't listen to children, right? We're not supposed to listen to them. Listen. We've been told that we're very smart in certain areas. That's a lie. We're not. We've been told we're very dumb and helpless in some areas. That's a lie. We're not. Again, flip pretty much everything you've been told in this place, and you'll begin to see the truth. Not stupid because you didn't know, I say. Thank you. But my heart knew, right? All this is written on our hearts. Let me tell you a story. Not only did I do it to my son, my dad did it to me. It was much like you see that video. I'm going to do a video with just that scene from Mommy Dearest, without sound or whatever, but I'm going to do that scene because my mother used to make me watch that stupid movie every Mother's Day. See what a good mother you have? See? She thought it was funny to tell people too. I make her watch that every Mother's Day. Anyways, when I was about, I was little, 5 or 6, I wasn't, well, as a child, my dad wouldn't let me have breakfast. I wasn't allowed to do nothing until I wrote out my alphabet. I had to write out my ABCs. So I couldn't do anything. And that's at like 2 or 3. And I remember all this. So then the next thing was my dad and mom had split, and my dad had set up the table. I mean, first of all, like we were adults, which is fine. I mean, I guess they used to do that. They used to treat kids as adults. So there's this big long table with me at one end and him at the other. And I end up sitting there because I'm not eating. And he won't let me leave the table unless I eat my food. So I eat my vegetables. I eat a little brown rice, but I didn't like that. And he wanted me to eat this steak. And so he tries to force this steak on me. And I told my dad, see, that's weird. When I see people deleting their comments all the time, I wonder why that's happening. Maybe, I mean, if it's because you don't want anyone else to see your comments on my channel, I hope that's not why. I have too many people that do that. Anyways, my dad did the same thing to me when I was a tyke. You know, you better eat all your food or you're not moving from this table. Yeah, I'm a pretty stubborn kid. I sat there for hours until it was dark in the city and the lights had come on outside. So I don't even know how long I sat there for, to be honest with you. I know that I chewed a couple pieces, spit them out, and told them they were gross. So, you know, the things that we do in our ignorance, and by ignorance, again, I mean not knowing. I have a lot of people who do that, you know, and I get that a lot on my channel, so it doesn't surprise me. I'm just curious. Okay, so this is where I get a little fuzzy because, okay, so the Trappists, I don't know who they are. I'm going to have to look into them. Cistercians, Benedictines, Franciscans all have had a tradition of a vegetarian diet to which they still adhere. The pretzel, where George Cornell, former AP religion writer, a Lenten bread symbolized arms folded in prayer. I just had a pretzel. I'd been craving a pretzel for months. That's crazy. That's cute. Is that another way to eat bread? I'm gonna have to look into that. I like pretzels, hot pretzels. Lentils were named as such because they were a Lenten vegetarian alternative to animal flesh. In following Christ's example, a papal bull once excommunicated anyone. Now listen to this. Once upon a time, you could be excommunicated from the church just for attending a bullfight because they were deemed cruelty to animals. And again, I always have a throwback to this. I don't know what's happening in my personal life. I prayed because I tell you guys, when I pray for something, I get it, but I get it before I actually prayed for it because God knows what we need before we ask for it. And by the time I'm praying for it, I'm like, wait a second, God already gave me this answer. You know, you're good, God, you're good. You got me, Dad. Anyways, I had prayed to, I can't tell you the particulars, but I had prayed to go through certain things during the rest of my time here on earth if it meant the salvation of other people. those other people, primarily the first two being my sons. So it's not totally altruistic. Don't, I am definitely no saint. Um, so I asked God to put me through certain things if it be his will, and if it would help others around me, if they would see what I went through, and be led to God. I said it more eloquent in prayer. I'm just relaying the story to you guys. I said that I would go through some of these things. And it's really funny because I found myself I find myself in certain situations now saying what Jesus said in the Bible. And it's not planned out. I've never been a person. I will write notes and I do journal, but I don't write out like what I'm going to say. I don't really plan out what I'm going to say. I try to let things always just spring from the heart. It might be a little disorganized, but I feel for genuine sake that works best in all areas. So I try to just speak from the heart. So I find myself saying certain things that I'm like, wait, that's in the Bible. So see that part about bullfighting? I was asked about that. Several, like again, this stuff has been planned, man. If I didn't know better, I would think like I was married to Satan. Not my real husband, but like whoever this one is that sneaks in every now and again and jacks my life up. Because I get put through these exact same things. I was asked what I thought about bullfights once, and I'm like, what do you mean, turn it? I don't want it on my TV. I definitely wouldn't go to such a thing. Like, I don't even want it on the television. So it's weird. I've been tested for years now about all these topics. So anyway, it goes on to tell you that Daniel was a vegetarian, and I would agree that is why Daniel was not ate in the fire by the lions. He was not ate when he was put in the den of lions because he was not a meat eater. They knew he was a friend. I would be more than willing to bet that Jezebel probably ate a pretty big steak diet herself if her own animals tore her up the way they did. And that goes along with, some of the videos might not be here anymore, but some of them are. I can repost them if you guys want, but I did a video about rules to follow if you want to live while you're camping or hiking or any of those things. And I said, what was it called? Friday the 13th taught us how to survive. Basically, everyone that has nookies, everyone that smokes a joint, everyone that sins in those movies is the first to die, right? So the one that's left is always the virginal, more pure person of the group, right? At least back in the day. Now they're starting, evil's good, sympathy for the devil, this whole thing. I mean, we all like a Robin Hood type villain every now and again, but anyways. So I firmly believe that if any of these alleged Bigfoot that are out there, and I've talked about how I feel about this, about the yes, no, are they real? What are they really? If you're gonna go camping and do that type of stuff, I personally would not cook meat on an open flame if I was like through hiking or even if I was just camping alone at this time. It's not something I would do. Why do you think all those camping channels on YouTube got really big when they did? It was with a purpose. I've been telling you this forever, guys. They want people out there thinking they can do this. What do you think they're actually doing? Back in the day, we were told about serial killers, about how serial killers were vain, about how they were arrogant and they couldn't resist bragging to the police, and they would write letters to the police, which honestly, I think they are vigilantes who are known to the police, and the police look the other way for the sake of calling and the sake of their paychecks. I think they look away, and I think this type of thing has been happening for a long time. Funny, when you quit eating animals, all of the truths that reveal themselves to you. You don't get angry at certain things. You really can't get, and you know that when you do get angry, it's righteous anger. Like, I can say that now, that when I do get angry, there's a reason for it. It's not just whatever. So right here, when I was telling you about the fish, the command to feed the hungry given by Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount implies vegetarianism, since the flesh of animals yield 100 to 1,000 pounds an acre from murdered animals. Dairy products, around 10,000 an acre, stolen from animals, which is their milk. Some vegetables, 81,000 an acre. And fruits from centenarian fruit trees, 450,000 or more pounds an acre. Okay, so they're telling you here how that kind of sorts itself out. All right, I will include this link. Let me see. Now, this is the same website. It's allpoetry.com. Why, I don't know. Apostle Peter was a vegetarian. Okay. Apostle Peter, only of vegetables, an eater, not wanting to eat the dead products of slaughterhouse butchers and beaters. That's creative, right? Peter considered all flesh defiled and unclean. Peter was vegetarian. As he himself states in the Clementine homilies, Peter would not kill any of them because he knew that this vision had another meaning. Any animal which is slaughtered is defiled, and its meat is defiled. He explains this in the Clementine homilies. He recognized its meanings when the Gentile Cornelius invited him to dinner. Peter realized that the dream was instructing him not to go out and eat meat, but to preach the gospel to the Gentiles. The Jewish dietary laws should not prevent the spread of Christianity. And at Cornelius's dinner, Peter related to his hosts, "You yourselves know how unlawful it is for a Jew to associate with or to visit anyone of another nation. But God has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean." So again, all these channels pushing that Christians should have guns, that Christians should want closed borders for safety, they are manipulating the Christian masses. They are saying, this is good, do it, listen to us. If you don't do it, you're not obedient. They are playing on our meekness and our humility. They are playing on the fact that we want to please and that we want to turn the other cheek. But in doing this, we're ensuring servitude of our children, number one, into this same system all over again. But they're separating, they're dividing man from his brethren, right? I don't really know what else to say about this. It's all over. Like, it's everywhere. There was no lamb at the Last Supper, only bread and wine. Like, it's everywhere. You never see Jesus sit down and eat part of these feasts. Jesus freed the animals in the temple, which really operated as a butchery, declaring, "I desire mercy, not sacrifice." In the movie Mary Magdalene with Joaquin Phoenix, that is a scene that I believe is more accurate than any other. I won't refer you to the whole movie, but the scene where he is in the temple disbanding the butchers, you see exactly what's happening. They don't school you. This is why people need to read. Nobody reads anymore. You have to visualize as you read. They've told you all these things are bad. Visualizing is bad. Gemstones of God are bad, even though they're in the Old Testament with Aaron and Moses. Like, all these things they tell us is to kill and stuff down the Holy Spirit within, our intuition. They don't want us listening to that. They want us being obedient. Whoever they see we listen to, they will put their message into that person, that brand, that whatever. They have people on YouTube saying they're Christians, but pushing. River and Joaquin Phoenix are both vegetarians from what I recall. I'm pretty sure Joaquin is, yeah. I think I've read that. I'm not big on celebrity like news and gossip in their lives and stuff, but I do think I do pay attention to stuff like that because again, this has been quite the journey for me, and it's just so upsetting that people are just letting their whiplash reactions, their knee-jerk reactions, to take them away from this topic when it could be such a blessing to their lives. Do you know how much spirituality, how much God has blessed me with, spiritually speaking? I know it has separated me from my family and my groups of people, but my sister-in-law, she was a vegetarian. The one that I say my son's girlfriend looks just like, and I don't know what happened there. I don't know what they're trying to show me. I've talked about that in the reincarnation videos. This whole journey has been very, very hard for me. Right now, it seems like they're just manipulating me to get a reaction, so I'm trying not to do that, all right? But anyway, if you want to see a good scene that depicts that, if you have a hard time visualizing as you read Mary Magdalene with Joaquin Phoenix, there's a good scene with those animals. In fact, if I can get the scene from Mary Magdalene, if somebody could write this down in the comments, nobody ever does that when I ask, but if somebody could, about Mary Magdalene and Joaquin Phoenix and Mommy Dearest, I would like to put those into a video to make about this topic. And of course, it's going to be a gross video. That's what they're going to say. These images are offensive for YouTube. Yeah, but everything else is okay. We have porn everywhere now, but that's okay. I think the human body is beautiful. I think it should be respected. I think in paintings, it's completely different. You're not showing the act of, right? It's not demeaning to women or men. If it's done tastefully and it's art and there's a reason and a purpose for it. I guess I've gotten into a couple of things here today. The main point is to tell you not everything, most things are not what we've been told. Most things. Now it's in the comments, but it'll disappear. It won't stay there. But hopefully I'll come back and watch. What time is it? Okay, I'm going to end this soon just because I don't want this being forever. Let me see if I had anything else to add from my journal entry here. And I will include these links so you guys can read them on your own for sure. Okay, so famous Christian and Catholic saints. We've got St. Francis. We know that. Here's one that you might not have known. Guess who else was a vegetarian? And it's touted all the time by every church. And she is someone, I think it's amazing because she did bring the Jews and the Christians together in a type of way in her story. Queen Esther, guys, was a vegetarian. Queen Esther was a vegetarian. And she kicked butt all while being a vegetarian. So anyone that says you're too weak or you can't do this or that without food, they fasted for days and days, Queen Esther and her kingdom. Oh, there's my little one tooting off. Yeah, I gotta go too, love. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. St. Anthony the Great, St. Catherine of Siena, St. Benedict, St. Philip Neri, St. Clare, St. Therese, and on and on. So, I'm going to end this with a quote. In the Clementine Homilies, homily X11II, which is 12, states, the unnatural eating, hold on, let me do this. In the Clementine Homilies, homily XII, homily 12, states, and I quote, the unnatural eating of flesh meats is as polluting as the heathen worship of devils with its sacrifices and impure feasts. Through participation, man becomes a fellow eater with devils. Fascinating. This is a topic we will be revisiting. If it's something you're interested in, let me know. I will post you a link to the new channel. That channel will be all about spirituality. There won't be any high strangeness unless there's something that we're questioning about the spiritual, but it will be all about how to change the spirit through changing your physical habits. And we will be doing nothing but looking at diet, looking at saints and sages and mystics. I love you guys. Have a blessed day. Please pray for me if you think of it. I don't ask often, but it would be appreciated. I love you.